Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to video game news. Today is Monday, January 26th. So all over the weekend I've been dealing, like most people in the United States, with potential weather problems, and I've just been really afraid of power going out, and that has become even bigger of an issue now as I was moving things, and whenever you move something there's a high chance that the thing will be broken. My battery backup of 7 years old decided to give up the ghost. I'm fairly certain it is internal to the battery backup and that I can't just replace the battery, which would be the cheapest and smartest move if you could get away with that, but no. It is shutting off immediately on any load and saying that the battery is good, which one of those things can't be true. Either the battery's shot and it should be telling me the battery's shot, or it the battery's possibly good and the rest of the circuitry is bad. I initiated a self-test and it immediately shut down everything on the battery backup side, but not on the power surge side too. So yeah, and I had heard it doing something weird throughout during this weekend. At one point it was kicking in, which I was confused about because none of the other lights were flickering in the house, and it didn't look like power was really going out. As far as a blackout is concerned, maybe a brownout occurred, and that was the last thing it could deal with. So right now I'm just raw dogging my computer, for lack of a better term, running without protection, and so I now have spent an extra $150 to get a battery backup. It is possible that even my new computer really doesn't need what would have been a 1450 volt amp battery backup, but I don't know. You undershoot it and then you've just wasted money on battery backup. For the most part though, either you want to go all whole home battery backup, which is the way of the future. Let's scroll down the SteamDB 24-hour peak concurrent charts here, which numbers might be a little bit different, but if people are like me, I really didn't spend much time playing video games this weekend at all. In fact, I've been on quite the kick of cleaning and decluttering, and I've moved a lot of furniture, moved a lot of TVs around, and so yeah, I feel like I may just be in that time of year where I am at my best as far as getting things done and feeling energetic and motivated. And then it seems like maybe by the third quarter of the year, that's when I start to slow down quite a bit. And I don't know if that's what the reasons for that is, but I could certainly speculate on a few things. But yeah, over the weekend I really didn't play anything at all, which is funny because I was invited to play test a game that's not out yet and give feedback, and yeah, I just wasn't focused on that. But yeah, I did look at let's look at, I think things are all over the place here as far as tabs go for some reason today too. Let's look at the most wishlisted games. Now I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, Save Room the Merchant was the game I was playing before, and I timed myself trying to do the last puzzle in under 5 minutes. So I set a 5-minute timer, and by the time 5 minutes had passed, I was probably halfway through even an attempted speedrun. So yeah, I just don't know how you could possibly solve that final puzzle in under 5 minutes, short of maybe using a whole bunch of keys on the keyboard that I just don't know how that would work. So yeah, I gave up on getting all the achievements for that. There was one other achievement I didn't get, but yeah, I just don't think it is worth the effort, and frankly I may never be able to beat that last level in under 5 minutes. Eugenics has made it to the top 100 most wishlisted games from the maker of The Binding of Isaac, which may mean something, maybe. And yeah, over the weekend it's been just incredibly boring. Like, snowed in, nothing's happening. I can't really do anything. I'm piling up trash bags of trash as I clean and declutter to throw away. I'm looking into what I need to get that 3D printer I got for free up and going, and yeah, I mean, you can't look a gift horse in the mouth, but there are a lot of things, I think, even if you got the nicest and newest of 3D printers, there's potentially a lot of things that just don't come with that, such as filament dryer, possibly a different build plate, possibly an enclosure. Well, some of the nicest ones probably would have an enclosure built in, but then a window or exhaust vent of some sort, whether you were going to drill a hole in your wall or exhaust a window. I'd heavily suggest going through a window, just to have fumes exhausted out of the outside. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even really want to run it in a garage, because then the temperature wouldn't be consistent, and even then fumes are going to be putting out microplastics and fumes of different sources, I'm sure, all through your garage. So yeah, the model, I don't know exactly what model it is yet, I haven't really looked at it, is an Elegoo is the brand, but there's a wide variety that look very similar to what it is, and the newest Elegoos look completely different, and apparently are in a bit of a controversy in that they had promised multicolor on the second newest unit that they offered, and then they have yet to deliver on multicolor filament using multiple filaments, but they've released a newer one that does support multiple color filaments. So yeah, it does seem like it is fairly consistent around the industry that a lot of 3D printers get released in these half-baked states and make promises that they'll be better in the future, and like all products, you cannot believe people when they make those promises, and you have to buy something for what it is now. Even cars have that real problem. Yeah, Tesla just killed off its official auto drive efforts, I think, in favor of a paid lane assist, which is about all I think it can really handle. the auto drive never really came to fruition. There are several 3D printers that have mods to let you, one way or another, constantly build something. Sometimes it's tilting the 3D printer at about a 45-degree angle, so something gets 3D printed, it sticks to the base plate, and then there's a scoop that scoops it out automatically in front of the print head of the 3D printer. And then there's another way it's done, in that you don't tilt the 3D printer, but the actual base plates can be ejected from the front of a 3D printer. If you get a 3D printer enclosure, by the way, you also are unlikely to be able to get a good camera in that enclosure at the same time. So it might very well be a catch-22 in that situation if you want to get time-lapse photos. But the one 3D printer I've seen that has a camera built in also doesn't have a particularly good quality camera, so it's not like you're going to get great quality photos if there's an enclosure with a camera built in. A big part of that is going to be whether the enclosure is yellow to prevent laser from going through, which might be used in a CNC cutter, or more likely in a resin curer. Which, yeah, I still think the resin 3D printers are way too much work for what they are. Did see a process of using acetane to polish 3D prints to maybe get rid of some of the layer lines. But you know, I think what's going to happen with this 3D printer is I need to find it to be a nice happy medium to do something useful and kind of always be working, but also not push me to immediately want to buy something way bigger and better, or just better in general. Maybe bigger doesn't really matter. I looked at some videos on how to make jigsaw puzzles. I thought that might be an interesting project, certainly, as far as you could make jigsaw puzzles for little kids out of plastic and make them customized to the kids' likes or name or whatever, or to a brand. But yeah, the hope is that it would just immediately out of the box print perfectly, and I don't think it would be. It's a used printer, and it needs at the very least to be cleaned. I wouldn't be surprised if the belt needs to be tensioned and the gears need to be greased, and I wouldn't be surprised if locking down all of those things still doesn't give you a particularly great out of the box experience. It might very well be a printer that is best with large scale things and ignores small finer detail. I still think it's going to be at least a month before I actually get it up and going, because I will probably start focusing in on something else more important, but I would like to get it going. I imagine it's also going to be like really, really slow, and that might be the exact balance on it too, is that what might be days and days of printing with this model might only be one day of printing on newer models. this snow has also kind of messed with my sleep schedules a little bit. And so yeah, I really wanted to go to sleep before streaming later this evening, but yeah, I just didn't feel like that was actually going to happen. So I decided to stream now. I would say in my area the snow has been pathetically small, just barely enough to put a screaming stop to all of society, but not enough that you would really enjoy going out and playing with it. Even if you were a kid, you're gonna struggle to make a snowman. You're going to not have that many snowballs to have a snowball fight with. If you were going to do those kinds of things, I don't know if kids do those kinds of things in particular. And as a adult with responsibility, the snow and ice really just threatens big bills on adults, that a pipe is going to freeze and burst, that you're going to get sick, that you're going to miss work, and get paid less if you're an hourly employee. You know, and yeah, there's just not really as much fun from it at all. If you have kids, you're now having to deal with kids who are out of their element, and you can no longer just send to school to get out of your hair. Yeah. Part of my cleaning and decluttering is I pulled out a bunch of shirts and clothes that frankly I never liked and never wore, and now I have several trash bags of clothes that I want to wash just because they were covered in dust, before either giving them away, or I suppose I'd just donate them. It'd be kind of silly to throw them away. But I'm still 1 month away from when I would want to spend any extra water, because I'm trying to lower the sewer bill for my house, which is December, January, and February. So those 3 months I've been trying to use the least amount of water as possible. I'd say this month I probably have done worse, particularly with this freeze. I've been running hot water every now and then down the drain also. So yeah, these bags of clothes potentially are not going to be washed until at least March. And pretty much if you donate clothes to Goodwill or something, they are just cycling all of that out super quick. So if something's dirty, if it has a stain on it, if it has a hole in it, they will literally just throw those things away. But I suppose if you donate it, then they're throwing it away in their garbage bin instead of you having a big pile of garbage at your house, and you're letting someone else make that decision instead of you. But yeah, if you actually want these clothes to actually be used by somebody, then they kind of have to be pristine, and they kind of have to be washed, which, yeah, even then they might get thrown away quite a bit. Been trying to catch up on Pokemon TCG Pocket while I had the extra time. It's still a very hard game to play, even in the single player mode, just because it's boring, frankly. But yeah, I'm making decent progress there, and I'm still playing Memento Mori and making progress every day. Memento Mori has a very interesting way about it, in that every single day does give you a little bit more progress. Just all you have to do is log in and do all the daily quests, which there's a decent amount of them, and you'll slowly make progress. And then in Memento Mori, if you get far enough, you'll unlock some whole new feature, and I don't even think I understand and know all the features that I have unlocked at this point, and I am fairly certain that there are even more to unlock. Yeah, it would be getting ahead of myself, but I am starting to feel like I may hit a point here where I have done all I can do as far as cleaning and decluttering, although probably by the time that happens I will also be right in the middle of tax season, and so that'll be something else to focus on. I have a few remodel things still that need to be done before I would fully feel comfortable renting out rooms in my house, but I mean, if somebody was desperate, I probably could come to an agreement with them to give them a room as is. Some of those things I can do myself, or like electrical things, but with it being snowed in, it's not really the time you want to mess around with electricity. Like, even if you do know how to wire a light or an outlet, one mistake could mean your life. Even more so if the roads are snowy and the EMS decides to take longer or has to take longer than normal, or you mess up your electricity in the middle of the freeze and then your heater's not working. Yeah, my heater has been, I've set it to act as a thermal battery, so I've got my house staying at a toasty 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a little too much heat, but yeah, it's not too bad either. I'm still contemplating just moving the components of my new PC from one place to another instead of actually finishing building it. I think I've still got way too many projects like that to go about and do. Yeah, I was I lost my train of thought again. Yeah. Was able to clear out a whole section and add a new chair to a desk that was in my room. So I've created this new area that is now just covered in junk. But yeah, at some point that might be a decent place to work on some of these projects and actually finish them. As far as this is just a dedicated workstation. So yeah, I talked about save room. There's 2 achievements I didn't get. One is beating the last level in less than 5 minutes. Then you can see this game, Slopeside Kings. This is the playtest game that I launched and then played the tutorial a little bit and then just wasn't really feeling like I would want to play any of it at the moment. It is in playtest right now. It's not out for available. It doesn't even have a release date. Now, after looking at this game at the gaming meetup, I literally had no contact with this developer until a couple days ago. And so it really was like 4 or 5 months of just absolute silence, and I'd emailed them and tried to get in contact and tried to perhaps have a bigger relationship there, but yeah, I figured they were just either busy or just didn't really want that. So I was very surprised to get an email that was probably somewhat of a mass email on this game. We'll also say, after playing this game and seeing this game, I saw several other games be announced that are skiing centric. So this is a game that's going to have to try and stand out a little bit, and hopefully in a positive way. The demo I saw was probably very different from what the playtest is now. For instance, buildings like this didn't exist in the demo. And it is this multiplayer snowboarding combat racing game, which is quite a bunch of key phrases, where you can also do tricks. You pick up these backpacks, you get items like Mario Kart and shoot them or use them in some way. And yeah, it seems like he probably has improved his level designs quite a bit from what it was. This image doesn't want to load. You can see what looks like either a giant bear or an odd visual angle on that side. Then we have like a giant wolf on this side. I probably mentioned it 2 or 3 times to this developer that this really reminded me of the ski game from Windows 95, and that there almost certainly should be a Yeti that will chase after you and eat you in any skiing / snowboarding game. So maybe that's what those animals represent. But yeah, it says I ran this for like 7 hours. The truth is I ran it for 10 minutes and then I left it running for 7 hours plus. I need to get back to it. Interesting part of the email, I'm not under any kind of NDA or anything like that, so I can say whatever I want, but they mention that the music in the game is not licensed, and so you will almost certainly get a copyright strike if you try to stream it. And they specifically mentioned streaming as an option, which, I mean, you really are just playing with fire to have any assets in your game at any point that are not licensed. I mean, you're just really playing with fire there. But yeah, I don't know if there's really going to be too much that I could live stream, or I wouldn't live stream, but I could do like a preview on this. It would potentially allow me to make a video about a game well before it was early, which could give me a significant advantage if this game caught on and got promoted by the algorithm. But also it might very well do absolutely nothing, because yeah, there are very few YouTube gamers or content creators in general that just got like early access to something and that completely skyrocketed their career and let it grow and continue to grow. So yeah, I am keeping an eye on Slipside Kings to see when it comes out, which I imagine by the version numbers will be 4 to 6 months from now, in the back half of 2026, if it is to line up with the 2026 release schedule it's claiming. I did get the second of the Injustice fighting games. So that was $5 extra I spent. Yeah, the funny thing here is I had a brief moment where I looked at my finances, which always depresses me, and I'm like, oh yeah, January in particular was supposed to be the month where you don't buy extra stuff, where you try and catch up, and it's just not really going that way. And so yeah, I had a brief bout of financial depression there, and for a day or two, and really I should have probably had a month of financial depression, and then very quickly I just got bored again and started looking at things, and now I've had to order a new battery backup, which there's just really no delaying for even a sale on that. Not really. Yeah, and it really sucks that buying the full battery backup is like $170, whereas buying a new battery would be $13. Yeah, I wish there was some bring your own battery solution that wasn't also a whole home solution. As far as computer controllable, they can act as batteries, and the computer will know when the battery is low and shut down type devices, because they do have bring your own battery solutions for whole homes, where for $1,500 you can get something that would power an entire house for 25 to maybe 40 minutes, whereas what you get on a single computer backup is going to be far less time and just far less watt hours. Yeah, I really wish there was a revolution in battery technology where it became super cheap, but that's unlikely to happen. This wicked seed seems to be new and trending, which once again gives voice to reality nobody really wants to talk about, as far as how many of these horror games and lewd games actually get sales and get people's attention. And particularly when there's just nothing that new from the AA and AAA developers to compete. It's kind of no surprising. So yeah, here's Shredders, which came out in 2022 as far as a snowboarding game. Yeah, let's just go and look at the competition, as it were. Riders Republic, Santa Corps 4, Adventure and Snowboarder. A lot of these definitely probably aren't that great, but yeah. I don't know how popular snowboarding really is. I know that, if I recall correctly, the developer of the game is Yeti Ski, which looks like it's just a recreation of the Windows 95 skiing game. I think a big reason why the developer of that game wanted to make a snowboarding game is because they were just in love with snowboarding themselves, which I think is probably something that a lot of early developers really do, and I'm not sure if it's the smartest of moves always, because the thing there is that you're not really doing market research, and frankly you're not able to be unbiased on your market research if you're already in love with something. But that love also, on the other hand, will keep you working on the project. So there is something to say about being inspired also. So yeah, it's a little good, but it can also lead you down the wrong path. What is this? Is this a snowboarding game? Not really, but it's tag snowboarding. And that may be another problem, certainly, when you make a game, is that you might just have something that is tagged a bunch of different things and isn't really competing. But what it does seem like the trend is, and I think this is probably true for most sports games in particular, is that you tend to expect hyper-realistic graphics both in the scenery and in the characters. So I think you probably, in doing market research, would want to figure that out. These guys maybe are a little bit cartoony in the color palette and softer CGI, but maybe a little bit low polygon. But still, you are going very much realistic levels of graphics and not cartoony levels of graphics. It's interesting here as we look at the screenshots for this game, which is rated very positively, is that you have an emphasis a bit on the characters in the first 3 screenshots more than actually showing what the game is. I really don't know too much of what the levels look like or what the game looks like, and it's selling itself by being inspired by SSX and 1080. Are we going to get any Steam Deck refurbs? Honestly, it looks like the list is just completely gone now. Yeah. Let's reload the page and see if it shows back up. Oh, it did, but yeah, you can see the buttons are not there. There are no refurbs for the Steam Deck. It's unlikely there will be any. I could, certainly if I get bored enough, go back to my Steam Deck and play some more Vampire Survivors. I don't think I probably would go back and play Balatro. Even potentially Save Room was a possibility, but yeah, I have no reason to go back and play that now. It doesn't really get me anywhere, though. Yeah, it definitely feels like at some point I'm going to decide to start working on some of the more programming stuff, getting back to getting my macros and the way these pages look back to what I want them to look like. And at that point, I probably will shift my focus once again and slow down on cleaning and decluttering. I also have been watching a little bit of streaming TV. Saw the latest episode of the Fallout TV series. They briefly teased the Super Mutants, and it definitely seems like what's going on is that they are just setting themselves up for another season as it is. And yeah, I imagine we're not really gonna have anything major happen in this entire second season. I'm still watching that Wandering Witch anime on, I think it's called Elena the Wandering Witch, anime on Hulu, and I'm just trying to finish that. Still watching Hip, the American Hip TV show. There's a new TV show on FX called Beauty that is weird. Yeah, kind of feels like it's going to be in a weirder venue. I was kind of thinking it might be something like a Silence of the Lambs type show, or Hannibal, more likely. And no, I don't think it really is going to go in that direction as much. Let's see. Been watching lots of episodes of Unforgivable on Prime Video, which is a British panel show of comedians telling stories about horrible things they did. I've been watching anything else though, really? No, I watched the After Party on Apple TV, season 1 and season 2. It's a fine show for a single watch. Not too much to say there, but yeah, I probably am getting more desperate to try and find different things to watch. With my new glasses, I could potentially watch more things and actually read the subtitles on my TV, and since I moved the TV around temporarily, I think I'm getting a better angle to read the TV in the first place. And honestly, it's probably just placebo effect, but I feel like having just worn the glasses a little bit over the course of a couple of days, that has potentially forced my eyes to start to readjust, and so now it doesn't feel like I need them as much when I'm not wearing them, even though I probably should always wear them. And so who knows, maybe this will be some kind of miracle thing where they heal themselves. That would be nice. It's unlikely to happen. Anyways, let's go through Video Game Chronicles news. I want to not make this a super long stream. Let's see, Mario Galaxy movie release date brought forward in global alignment. The Mario movie sequel now release on April 1st in many major markets. April Fool's Day. Interesting. I imagine there might be some April Fool's joke at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. And I still have no interest really in Mario Galaxy movie. I'd be more interested if Mario Galaxy got a sequel or a remaster and releases or remakes. That would be much more interesting to me. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of hope of that happening. I did see a YouTube video talking about Star Fox, and apparently there are like 5 Star Fox games, which certainly speaks volumes, really, that to me there's only the Super NES Star Fox game, which I never played, and Star Fox 64. And then yes, there was the unfinished Star Fox 2 that was released a couple years ago. But the idea that there was 2 or 3 extra Star Fox games, one on the Nintendo DS, all of that has been forgotten by me if I ever knew it. More than likely, I never knew it. Yeah, it definitely highlights where Star Fox as a series has just never really been designed well, or to keep going forward. And in fairness, I've given it some thought as far as how would you make a game like Star Fox 64 and make it better, or just like modernize it, and I can't really think of anything. Like the Panzer Dragoon style on-rails shooter in 3D gimmick has been a very limited gimmick to just Star Fox and Panzer Dragoon. Maybe some sequences. There's a sequence in like Bayonetta like that. I think Bayonetta 1. But yeah, I don't think you can make a full game around something like that. It almost screams that you would need to make something like Mario Maker for Star Fox, which maybe that would work. Ace Combat might be just better than Star Fox, so maybe Ace Combat really is the game to play instead. I'm not sure. Moving on. Xbox says it wants to be, quote, more consistent with its PS5 release timing in the future. So far, only some Xbox PS5 versions have released concurrently with other versions. Okay. We'll take that to really mean nothing. They want to be more consistent. Odds are they won't be more consistent. A new trailer and new characters, including Yoshi, have been revealed in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Yoshi and Birdo are joining Brie Larson's Rosalina and Benny Safdie's Bowser Jr. Which, yeah, I feel like all these voice actors are stunt casted. What was the deal about Brie Larson in particular? I'm pretty sure there was some kind of major controversy around her. Let's see if we can check Wikipedia. Let's see if there's a controversy section. These celebrities, though, certainly could be cleaning up their articles. Captain Marvel might have been the main thing in particular that had a controversy circling around her, was that she just kind of was a bad actress, was the accusation in Captain Marvel, and later depictions of Captain Marvel and the movie in general just wasn't good, and people also claim sexism as far as you just don't like that movie because you're sexist, which is, yeah, that is. Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest complaint really with Brie Larson is that she's just not perhaps the best actress. But maybe she'll be fine for a Mario movie. And I don't even know who Benny Safdie is, and I'm not going to bother to look him up. Again, I'm not interested really in the movie, because I think the problem with the Mario Galaxy movie is going to be the writing and the focus, where Mario is not going to be the main protagonist of a Mario movie, and instead he's going to be sidelined for it being a Rosalina movie or a Princess Peach movie. Instead, probably a Rosalina movie, like the first movie was a Princess Peach movie for sure. Let's see, moving on, it looks like Atari is working on a Rayman revival for the series' 30th anniversary. Of course, we have to point out this Atari is not the original Atari company, it's just somebody who bought the name And I believe it's probably about the 5th company that bought Atari's name out of bankruptcy. Let's see. Apparently Ubisoft previously said it was exploring a revival for the Rayman series, which Ubisoft basically did a major restructure and imploded. Rayman is yet another one of those platforming games that I just don't think ever really caught on. Yeah. It's almost certainly a lesson that game developers need to learn is don't try to emulate Mario games. Do something opposite of Mario games. The most successful competitive game series against Mario is Sonic. Sonic is pretty completely different from Mario games. Of course, you could also say like Doom and games that are completely different also, but yeah, Sonic is of the time the best competition to Mario games. And so yeah, doing a 3D platformer that is too much like a Mario game, or too much like any kind of other 2D or 3D platforming game, is definitely a mistake. I'm not sure there's enough new gimmicks to make it stand out. So we have yet another long-term employee at Nintendo of Japan leaving. So the Nintendo veteran Hideaki Kono, known for Mario Kart and Yoshi's Island, has seemingly left after 39 years. I thought it was 40 years. This is 1 week after another Nintendo veteran, Kensuke Tanabe, left. Yeah. So maybe they're going off to form a new company together, but maybe they're just retiring early. Yeah. But yeah, this is another example of a brain drain that we just have not seen with the previous president in charge of Nintendo of Japan. Although in fairness, I don't know how big of a brain drain it really is. Sure, you're losing these names, but these are also people who probably programmed games in a very different way. Speaking of programming games, Godot 4.6 is out now with some new improvements. Nothing I think that would really knock your socks off, but improvements nonetheless. Alright, and that's going to bring us to Gematsu articles. Take note that there really wasn't a lot of news over this weekend, which is not really surprising, everybody being snowed in. And in general, there's just not a good reason to expect a lot of video game news. Still, we are almost 1/12 of the way done for 2026 already, but that really doesn't mean anything in the game industry. Yeah, time keeps going forward, whether you want it to or not. This week's Japanese game releases: Code Vein 2, Machiism Frenzy of the Netherworld, and more. Let's see. Amber Alert Director's Cut. Interesting. Don't know what that is as far as a game. Let's see if any of these others jump out to me. I don't think so. We're seeing that the digital only list is still increasingly getting longer. Let's see. Mario Galaxy premiere moved up to April 1st. Already ignored that. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero new major DLC Mission 100 and Survival Mode updates announced. One of the Dragon Ball, I think animes, Dragon Ball Super, apparently is getting a remake, which I'm not sure there's really a need to remake it, or if it even came out that long ago. But yeah, I think that's one of the anime series, not one of the game series. And here we have Moho Arms from 2020. Just not on my follow list or my wish listing. I don't know why that would be the case. Was I being particularly picky? I don't know why we're even looking at a game from 2020, though. Arc Raiders. Still very positive. Moonlighter 2, Endless Vault. Yeah. It's rated very positively. Is it out of early access? No. Big Hops. Satisfactory. Bearho, Curse of Faces. Does this look like something I normally show off? No, but it is got a lot of user reviews, so there must be something more to it. Karen. Cozy Caravan. It is definitely a different art style. It makes it stand out a little bit. Baba Yaga game. Yeah, 15 years ago, Baba Yaga was not something that was even really known, which, much like Five Nights from Freddy's, or what is it, Five Nights at Freddy's? Yeah, you can certainly make a monster that catches people's attention if you're really lucky, and then you'll see a lot of people be excited about it for a while. Mugenics. Ninth Charnel. Looks like a horror game. Let's see. Dragon Ball new game Project Age 1000 announced. It's due out in 2027. The original creator of Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama, I think died a year or two ago, so potentially new things are going to have to be loosely based on whatever he did or left behind. Which, yeah, I don't know what you can do much more with Dragon Ball without like drastically changing it completely, which I guess you might go ahead and do that at some point and see if it happens. Kill off the first generation characters, introduce new characters, something bigger and stronger than Saiyans. This guy has the Capsule Corp logo on him, which might mean something, but I don't know what. You can see the technology here does seem to be slightly more advanced. So yeah, they really are just teasing things. But yeah, I guess this could be a case where this is a Saiyan 1,000 years in the future going through VR simulations of fighting all of the Dragon Ball Z characters. Yeah. And yeah, if this was a mobile game or like any side video game based on an anime, they tend to not really matter and not really be too connected from the main stories. But I have sworn off getting excited or even trying to play games, video games based off of animes. If I like the anime, I should just watch the anime. If I want to play the game, I should just play a game. The two mixed together almost always makes a worse experience. Magica, Modica, Magi, etc. being an example of one that I tried to play and ended up really just wasting a bunch of time. Rayman 30th Anniversary Edition, rated in Australia. Kind of already talked about that. See, that's going to bring us to gaming on Linux already. Got Dark Auction. Arc Raiders has a new content-filled roadmap for early 2026. Okay. Don't stop girly pop. I'll put it on the follow list. You can get some Sid Meier greats like Civ 6 in the big Humble Bundle. Sorry, I'm yawning here. Also saw that Waydroid has updated. I think it's called Waydroid. The Steam Deck Android emulation fork is upgraded a little bit to potentially support a couple more games that you might want to play on a Steam Deck that are Android games. It really is only a small handful of games though that you really would want to do that for. I mean, you still really can't get away with only having a Steam Deck and not having a cell phone. Like, you're still going to need text and phone calls. So, yeah, it is surprising that we haven't gotten to a point where you could add some kind of cell carrier plan to a Steam Deck to get phone calls and data, mostly data. Then again, the Steam Deck is also awfully large, so you really wouldn't carry it around in your back pocket day to day. Wouldn't fit in the back pocket. So here's why we saw Moho Arms. It launches April 27th after being in early access after 6 years, which more than likely means it's going to get a deluge of negative reviews as soon as it leaves early access, because they're probably just abandoning it more than finishing it. That's usually how that goes. That brings us to GameDeveloper.com articles, or at least it looks like it does. Maybe my macros messed up because of the battery backup messing up. If that is the case, well, then we really are going to have a bad choice here. But no, I suspect what really happened here is there's just not any news. So we'll look at all the new games on Steam, and if I scroll down this way with the mouse, that means I'm closing the tab. If I swipe this way with the mouse, it means I'm keeping the tab open to make a YouTube short on it, theoretically. If I'm putting it on a follow list, it means I might actually be interested in it to check back on it. And that doesn't support English. Let's go ahead and close that. That already has a checkbox next to it. That's an interesting idea. Surviving in Antarctica has been a large deluge of survival games over past decades, certainly, but really, no, I cannot justify putting something on the fall list named so simplistically horror. Okay, we have another one that doesn't support English. I did see that this looks too similar in all the screenshots. There was a game that was seemingly, or at least claims to have been mislabeled, and as such they really were not getting any sales of their game on Steam. So Steam went back after a while and undid adding that label that shoved it into the adult section. Yeah, I don't know if I have too much more. I think I saw a story, and I might be getting this wrong, that maybe somebody in Ireland, which has fairly specific, strict persecution against hentai, was charged and going through a court case. I think it was a kid, for having hentai Rule 34 images based on, I believe, Brown Dust 2, and they dropped the charges. But I'm sure that was a harrowing experience, to say the least. Yeah. There definitely are some countries where what you would think was acceptable flights of fantasy and fiction will get you persecuted. There definitely are some countries where you don't have freedom of thought and freedom of expression and things like that. And yeah, even in the United States, while they do claim people have freedom of speech, there are several ways in which it can be curtailed and still persecuted, assuming people are even following the laws as written. Saw a interesting YouTube video where somebody took a large sample set of the first screenshot and the thumbnail of games on Steam to see if the tags would correlate to what a large language module would put on the game. So he would give the large language module all the screenshots and say, put some tags on these games and identify them, and he then did a separate run with all the thumbnails, and the large language module seemingly did a decent job. Although, in fairness, his sample size was not 100%, and it was skewed to include like the first 30,000 most popular games and then 5% at random of all the other games that he scanned in. That may have skewed the results. I'm not sure. But yeah, the large language module did seemingly see that there was a fairly large correlation between certain colors, like horror games, having darker colors and deeper saturation in its colors, or lower luminosity as far as the brightness goes. But I don't think it really tells you too much, other than you should obviously be aping your visuals to match the tone and the type of the game. And that if you're playing a military shooter, it's probably going to be more hyper realistic and have browns and human skin tones and green, versus if you're playing a visual novel, it's going to have a lot more pinks and bright colors. For that anime aesthetic, this is AI almost certainly, although it does certainly look pretty creepy. Let's see. Yeah, all the pictures are generated by AI, which is weirdly an easy way to shortcut creepy images. But yeah, the video was intriguing, certainly, as far as how you could potentially really screw up if your thumbnails are nowhere close to the genre of your game, or your screenshots are nowhere close to the genre of your game. And in fairness, I do believe that's true as a thought, because that is the exact way that I dismiss the vast majority of these games that come out on Steam. Is I look at the first screenshots, and here's a great reason to not go any further with this game. They didn't even get a full screen screenshot without getting the start bar of Windows 11, it looks like. But yeah, you definitely pretty much have to judge a book by its cover. And so yeah, thumbnails are very important, and I would say a large amount of people cheat on the thumbnails and just like are lazy and use AI, or they make a thumbnail that visually looks completely different from the rest of the game, and it's just kind of bait and switchy at a certain level. Going with girls in a fantasy world. This one I'll have to look at later. But then I also don't want to really sing the praises of large language modules of any sort, because they all suck and they take way too much energy to actually run. Noticeably, as I've been watching a lot of the show Unforgivable on Amazon Prime, it's pretty obvious that they are using some kind of speech-to-text detection, which maybe isn't actually a large language module, which would explain why it's so inaccurate and wrong all the time. It would be shocking if they actually were paying somebody for the subtitles, because those subtitles get words wrong altogether all the time, and it's like they don't even know what the word is in the sentence, or what words would make sense in a sentence like that. Then also, since they are British people, they are just not really capable of hearing what the British people are saying, their accent being not even that big of a difference from an American speaker, but big enough that when they say a phrase that I recognize, it gets translated to something that sounds like that phrase but makes absolutely no sense. Here's another example of where you might be able to make a horror game with a different art style or just a lack of artistic skill. Yeah. It would be really weird if it was just a person typing in the subtitles and just doing a really terrible job. But also, it seems like that's insane that they wouldn't just be handed the subtitles from the TV licensor, because it's not like the subtitles don't exist. I guarantee you somebody is subtitling the show for its original channel and its original broadcast, so they probably are. Amazon is probably just being cheap or trying to push their AI concept really far, which I think Netflix actually just abandoned their AI dubbing of anime in particular, or not dubbing but subtitling of anime. Yep. And yeah, what sucks also is when I'm on my Roku TV watching Prime Video, I can't make the subtitles bigger, which, yeah, that's a problem in part with the TV more than it is with the Prime Video, but it sucks either way. Alright, well, let's go back to a Gaming on Linux article, I guess. Steam Deck has hit 25,000 games. Valve has rated playable or verified. Which apparently there's over 100,000 games on Steam. So that is almost a quarter of them. That seems like a big number. Although playable may just be a little bit loose, whereas you'd like to see more of them actually be verified. Yeah. Is there anything I really want to even do here? I don't think so. Yep, this has been an incredibly short stream, which, yeah. One thing about thumbnails is that you need a main protagonist. You need that kind of mascot character, whether it's a animal friend mascot character or just the main protagonist. More often than not, it's just the main protagonist, but yeah, you need someone that catches people's eye, and usually that is someone attractive, and usually that's someone female presenting. But yeah, if you're showing enemies, if you're showing a bad guy, if you're showing something that's inhuman, it doesn't catch people's attention as much. Yeah. And certainly you can probably make a mistake and have too many characters in your game that you're thinking is your favorite. That was the problem with Time Splitters. But yeah. But yeah, you want one character, maybe two character. It's going to be hard to even have like a group of friends, and even if you were going to have a group of friends, you still would have a main protagonist that you would focus on, particularly in the thumbnail. Alright, well, that's as much as I want to do today. Hopefully, I'm not going to find out on Wednesday that there was a ton of stuff I missed. that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and keep on watching. Thanks.